Hello and welcome to the Coming of Cage podcast, your Nicolas Cage movie review podcast. I am one of your hosts, Derek, and your other host, Ryan, is with me as well. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Derek. We are doing episode, 87 now?
87.
Yeah. This
Our
is going to be a fun one. This
86th.
is a movie that came out around the time or shortly after we started the podcast, and we were really excited for, so we've had to wait this long to watch it for it to come up on the wheel.
Yeah, we are talking 2023's Renfield, which
That's
is
right.
a dark comedy vampire horror. I mean, if you look at IMDb, it's got a bunch of tags. So I'm going to go with dark comedy vampire horror. I think that's fine.
I think splatter horror is probably in there too.
Splatter horror is in there. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yep. This movie, I'm going to tell you what it's about because I think it's very easy to explain. This is about Renfield, who is a servant to Dracula, and they are now in modern times in New Orleans. And Renfield wants out. He is in an abusive, codependent relationship, and he wants to strike out on his own and not be under Dracula's thumb anymore. And of course, Nick plays Dracula, which is probably the role he was born to play. Um, and the movie also co-stars Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, Awkwafina as Rebecca, and Ben Schwartz as Teddy Lobo. A few other
And
people throughout the
Nicholas
movie.
Hoult has done another movie with Nicolas Cage.
What did he do?
Was it Joe? He was a
No,
kid. He was a
Joe
kid
was
when he played it.
Joe was Tyler Sheridan.
No, okay, but he did do it. Nicholas Hoult did do another movie where he was a child. We have reviewed it on this podcast.
Really?
Yes.
Man, now so he was pretty young in it then. I'm gonna go back. I'm
Yes.
very curious. I can't really remember, so we're gonna vamp here while I look back and try and figure out what Nicolas Cage movie Nicholas Oh, The Weatherman. Right, The Weatherman
Yes.
in
There you go.
2005. Yes, right. Yeah, he played one of his son, right? He played
I
Nick's
think
son.
so, yeah.
So they've kind of had this relationship before.
Yeah, they knew each other at the very least. I just remember
Um,
when this movie came out, I watched a bunch of the interviews with Nicholas Hoult and things, and he kept talking about how good it was to reunite with Nick Cage.
aw.
So, yeah, so that's how I knew they were together. I couldn't remember what movie it was, but
Well, that's great. I've been very excited for this, and I watched it with Ray. Ray's been excited for this one as well. Have you ever seen any of the other incarnations of Dracula?
mm, if you count What We Do in the Shadows,
No. I mean like a classic Dracula movie. Okay.
no.
Okay. So Ray and I are really big fans of classic horror, the Universal monsters, which of course includes Dracula and like the Wolfman and Frankenstein and stuff. This movie plays so much homage and respect to like the Bela Lugosi original
Yeah, I was gonna say
Dracula.
Nosferatu, and you could definitely see some of that influence. I've never
Well,
seen the movie, but I've seen like clips of it.
so there are scenes in this movie that are literally remakes of scenes from Bela Lugosi's Dracula. In fact, I don't know how they shot them necessarily. They might just be superimposed in those scenes. And so there's some really cool stuff there. Like this, the people who made this care about Dracula, and it's really fun. The more Dracula movies you've seen, the more fun Renfield is. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, you so in that case, you probably enjoyed it more than I did. I did enjoy it, but I wasn't what I was hoping for, really.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's dive in, man.
Okay. Well, the movie starts off with Renfield at a support group. And you find out that this is a support group for people that are in like codependent or abusive relationships. Um, I thought it was an interesting choice for a comedy movie to utilize a support group that was for a very serious subject like that. I did think that it was a little played a little bit for laughs, which is a little unfortunate, but it works in the tone of the movie, I think. All the actors do a really good job not making it so serious that you're like, well, this is kind of messed up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's what's in the trailer mostly, right? Like that's how the trailer is framed about the support group and stuff. So, I kind of had that in my head already. It is kind of interesting because typically when you think of abusive relationships, toxic relationships, you're thinking romantic ones, right? People who are in a romantic relationship together. Obviously, that's not what this is. This is more like a boss and employee relationship, probably more than anything else. And so, I mean, they say that, right? But everybody else seemingly is in more of the romantic relationships. And so maybe that's why it can kind of work in this context because they're framing it as being different than what everybody else is. I'm
Right.
not sure.
Um, so we get that. We get some Renfield voiceover talking about like who he is, giving us the whole backstory on what Renfield is. We get some like black and white uh Dracula shots with Cage, which is some of the stuff you were talking about.
They're so good.
Um
They really
and,
are.
and black and white, like kind of Renfield's character, Nicholas Holt's character, I should say. Renfield. It's a little confusing because the title's Renfield and the character's Renfield, but yeah,
Right.
it's just kind of establishing the backstory that they've been together for a long time. It establishes that he has to eat bugs, live bugs,
Hmm.
to get his power, which I don't know if that's in the lore for
Yes, it very much
Dracula.
is.
Okay.
Yeah. There now, like, there's some inconsistencies in the different versions about like exactly why that is. In some situations, he eats bugs because he can't get people to drink their blood because like a big part of Renfield's story is he basically ends up in a mental institution for a very long time. And while he's in there, he's eating the bugs that come into his cell, right? So is he eating bugs because he has to eat bugs because that's what gives him his power, or is he eating bugs because that's what's available? That's up for debate, I think.
Gotcha. Um, we get to a point where there's some hunters that show up to kind of like vampire hunters that show up to kind of end Dracula's reign of terror, and they get him in like this protection ring or something like that. And
Hmm.
Renfield has the opportunity to let the hunters, kill Dracula, and he doesn't let them do that. And so we see the priest literally just kind of explode. Um, and at some point, somebody pulls down one of the curtains in the room, and Nick Cage, Dracula, catches on fire and like kills the other hunter. And that other hunter, before he dies, tells Renfield that any blood that Dracula spills after this is all on him.
Hmm.
And that kind of puts a little like bug in his head, in his brain, so to speak. Um, it kind of
Yeah.
sets up some of the crux of the movie.
Well, because it also shows like when Dracula is stuck in the protection circle, how like manipulative he is toward Renfield, right? That he's the only one in the world that understands him, that cares about him, yada 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 yada, and really
Classic
emotionally,
narcissistic,
yes.
codependent stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's working on Renfield up until this point, and then, like you said, like it's kind of the basis of the movie.
Yeah. And it turns out the movie takes place in New Orleans, which is not Dracula's traditional hideout, I don't believe. Now, maybe you can correct me on that.
No, you are correct. He tends to be in Transylvania,
Yeah,
or
European,
or somewhere in Europe. He moves around, depending on what you're watching. He's in Europe is usually where he is.
but movies that Nick Cage is in take place so often in New Orleans that we have a spot on our bingo card. We do play Cajo bingo, which is certain things we've noticed through these movies. So we play bingo every week. But yeah, so we were able to get that square. Not a lot of squares in this movie, but that was definitely one of
No,
them.
yeah,
Um, we go back to the support group, and I think this is where it kind of reveals that he's not going there because he thinks he needs help. He's going there to find victims to bring back to Dracula to eat.
right. And so this reveals something kind of interesting about Dracula, right? Where not all blood is created equal, right? He needs blood of the innocents is more powerful, and Renfield is trying to kind of punish bad people.
Yeah. So
right?
they're not innocent, you know.
Right, exactly. So he's trying to Renfield, I guess, is trying to find some self-worth here and do something positive in the world, and
And
that's his way.
especially now, Dracula is wanting the innocent blood because he's been burned very badly by these hunters,
Hmm.
and he's trying to heal.
Right.
Um, but yeah, uh he followed so one of the women in the group talks about how her boyfriend is basically a piece of shit. I don't remember the details, but so Renfield's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go hunt that guy.
Well, so this did bring up a running gag through the movie that I didn't understand, and it was this really random hatred of
For
ska.
ska, yeah.
Yeah, and like, look, I
Well,
don't listen
really,
to
it doesn't run
ska.
through the whole movie. It's
It's
really only like there's like three actual jokes. I mean, maybe they play ska a bit as a
they're
joke, but
spaced out. I guess what I mean is like it's spaced out through the whole film.
yeah.
You know, and I hadn't thought about ska in years, and so I just don't know why that was like a
I feel like it was
thing.
something from the one of the writers or directors that they just really had somebody they knew that they hated that liked ska music or something. It
Like
it did, yeah, it didn't really hit me as a good joke either, but maybe
okay,
for some people it worked.
okay, like this
Um,
is my big chance to really show what's his name.
yeah.
Okay,
Um, but he follows this guy, and it turns out that there had this guy and two of his friends had just stolen a bunch of drugs from like what's called, I think, the Lobo crime family or something along those lines.
yes,
And so they're kind of celebrating that they got away with it. And then Renfield shows up and like kills one of them, and then like starts to kill all of them. But then some other hunter that's sent there by the Lobo crime family shows up, who also seems to have some sort of mystical powers. I mean, he was like huge and he didn't really feel pain or like react in any way when he was hurt. He was kind of like a Frankenstein's monster type of character.
I guess I didn't
He
think
was
about
not
it that
responding
much.
like a normal human when he was being attacked.
Maybe he was on drugs.
Here, I guess this kind of leads into what my biggest difficulty with this movie was
Okay,
that there was stuff that they brought up that's very, the plot of the movie is basically Renfield dealing with his codependency, and it's kind of, which is a big problem in the real world. Codependency, dealing with narcissists and things like that, is a serious problem. And it's kind of coded with this humor, which is fine. I
yeah,
don't have any problem with that. But there's certain parts of the movie that you're supposed to believe that this is taking place in the real world, or like it seems like it's the real world. There's no reason to believe it's not. Well,
right.
then somebody throws a dinner plate through somebody's arms, or somebody like punches somebody's head off, and there's like waves of blood, like Army of Darkness, right? Like,
Yeah,
I get that
I
it's splatter horror, but at a certain point, like, where do I take it? Am I supposed to take any of this seriously?
so I think the short answer is no. I don't think you are supposed to take any of it seriously. I think if there's any message in the movie at all, right, it's having self-worth and standing up for yourself and valuing yourself. But beyond that, this is an Army of Darkness style movie. It is silly. Like the things that when you're talking about the plate cutting the guy's arms off, that's when Renfield is on the bugs and has his superpowers, right? So theoretically, at that point, he's as strong or stronger than like Captain America, right? Because that's his superpower. And we see it later when Lobo and his thugs get the ability. But the movie is meant to be very silly. It's meant to be tongue in cheek. Like the things that are happening, especially if you watch through the credits, there's a lot of just silly shit that goes on in this movie. There's a big fight sequence later where, Renfield literally pulls the skin off of somebody's face. That's it. The rest of the face is fine, right? Well, there's a scene in the credit sequence that I don't know if those were supposed to be alternate takes or extended versions of earlier scenes, but he does it to somebody's arm and then like slaps the guy with the skin glove. Like it is a very this would be arguably a B movie.
And all that's fair, but like, I guess we were skipping ahead a little bit, but like, the backstory for Awkwafina's character is very normal, and like, it's a person that had their dad was a police officer, and had died trying to take down this crime family. Well, later in the movie, this normal cop that, seemingly would be existed in our world, watches a guy rip another guy's arms off and then starts beating other guys with those arms and then impales a guy with an arm. And then she takes the arm out and starts beating somebody with it and
Mhm.
doesn't have any reaction that
Yeah.
any kind of person would ever have. And that was, I guess,
Yeah.
where the disconnect was for me. Like, I need a straight man in the story, right? I need
And
somebody going, "What the fuck is going on?" And I felt like she was supposed to kind of be that straight man, but then she wasn't. Some of the times things would shock her, and some of the times she's like, "Oh, cool, you chopped the guy's arms off with dinner plates," you know?
yeah, it's a fair point. I think for me, part of the problem with that is that they cast Awkwafina. And this is nothing against her. I like her. But for me, she's a comedy actor.
Yeah,
Right. And I'm not saying she can never be a dramatic actor. There are plenty of comedic actors that have done incredible, serious drama. Right. Uh, I just, I don't, this wasn't it. And so
sure.
for
And it would
me,
have been fine if she wasn't the straight man.
but I
Like,
think she needs to be she's the audience's vision to the movie, right? Because she's the normal person,
yeah,
right? Whereas Renfield, he's our narrator, but he has superpowers and knows Dracula, right? So she's the normal person in the room, but she's kind of like to kind of go back to Army of Darkness, she's kind of a little bit like the Ash character, but both of the first two movies, right? In the original Evil Dead, Ashley is a very serious character in a campy movie. But in Evil Dead 2, he's an extremely campy character in an extremely campy movie. She's trying to do both of those roles in the same film.
I think that's where the problem is for me. Is like
I
I needed her
agree.
to be one or the other.
I think that's fair. The arm scene that you're talking about, that to me was too far,
Yeah,
right? Like it was ridiculous enough that Renfield does the impaling with the arms, right? Like okay, fine, but that's campy Evil Deadish. But then when she grabs one of those arms and starts whacking the dude, I'm like, okay, that was a little too much for me.
are we supposed to believe that she has super strength too? Because if it would take super strength to throw that arm hard enough to impale somebody with it. I'm just
I
saying, like, there's no logic, and it's like,
yeah.
listen, I know that's nitpicky. That specific part is nitpicky. I think my larger issue is just that there's no real straight man, and I think this movie would have benefited from having the straight man, a straight man character, not like in terms of like their sexual preference. I'm saying like the
Yeah.
person that is
No, the
the
straight
person
man in a
that's
comedy. I know what
for
you mean.
us to
Yeah.
identify with.
And I think the problem there mainly, I think, was casting because the two serious actors are Renfield and Dracula. The other two main characters are played by comedians, right? And I love Ben Schwartz. I think he is absolutely hilarious.
Both
Parks
of
and
us,
Rec,
yeah,
Sonic, like he's awesome. But like, then at the same time, though, it is a little hard to take him too seriously as
as a
this like
villain,
right as
yeah,
this mob family villain guy, because and I don't mean this as an insult to him. I'm happy for him. He just seems like he's always enjoying himself so much just being in the movie. Like he's just so happy to be there that I just can't take him seriously as a big time villain, except for maybe the final fight scene when he has the superpowers,
yeah.
right? So to your point, like I think you needed to cast somebody who can play the straight-laced, grounded character, and I just don't think they cast that person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do like movies that are like really campy and outlandish. This one just didn't hit the same spot for me. I think my favorite part of the movie was Nicolas Cage, obviously,
Well,
the
yeah.
standout. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to it, yeah, he does. We were talking about the giant guy that also is not like way more powerful than a normal human being. But he gets his head punched off, and I don't mean like exploded like a head would if it got punched really hard. I mean it got like separated at the neck.
Yeah, like you're gonna put it in a jar in Futurama.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
No, you don't get the right. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think I think
that's part.
that's another thing. You know what I mean? Like the head would have exploded, right?
I think that's the campiness part. So like that's the part that I'm accepting that Renfield's powers work this way. That is a
And this does
conceit
kind of
of the movie.
establish that, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. Yeah, but it is a little weird.
It's weird, it's silly, it's campy. It is, to your point, very Army of Darkness, very Evil Dead. And I'm fine with it as long as it stays with Renfield or, later when Lobo gets the exact same ability. Other than that, though, like the arm thing, that is the bridge too far.
Right. Like normal people shouldn't be involved in these same physics.
Exactly. Because like there's something supernatural with Renfield. So you can kind of just say, well, it's magic,
Yeah.
right? And I can just be, I find that's the conceit of the movie, whatever. But with Rebecca's character, Awkwafina, like that isn't the case. That doesn't work anymore.
Right. So we get our first look because Renfield brings back all these drug dealers that he killed, back to uh Renfield, and we get our kind of first look post burn of Renfield. And they did a really one thing I'll say they did a really good job of this movie is the practical effects.
Yeah.
The makeup for Renfield as he's healing throughout the
Dracula.
movie, or for Dracula, sorry, as he's healing throughout the movie. But even Renfield, the basic makeup they did on him to make him look a little bit off,
Hmm.
was really good, even though it was subtle. But yeah, the like he Dracula as he's healing, uh, was really well done. It was gross. They did a good job. I really
This,
appreciated that.
yes, the prosthetic work was fantastic. And, it's another example of Nick Cage goes into a role fully committed,
Yeah,
right? Because this is not an old movie. This was from 2 years ago. The dude's 60, right?
yeah,
He doesn't have to be doing these movies, right? And they could have done CGI or whatever. No, he's sitting in the makeup chair, getting this stuff applied to his face at 3 in the morning to do these scenes, and they look great because of that commitment from him and the practical effects artists.
right,
And so that type of stuff elevates the movie because you have Evil Dead and things like that. They had no money.
right.
And especially the first two, like you just have like film students trying to pull these movies off. This is a full-fledged studio
Yeah,
putting that in. And so it does elevate it to that next level.
agreed. And I think I have a note on it somewhere later, but I think a lot of the enjoyment from this movie and watching it comes from you can tell how much fun Nick Cage is having. Like I think for me it was mostly the teeth. Like
Oh yeah.
you can tell he loved wearing those teeth. He like the way he used his mouth, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but like he almost over pronounced words or like over emoted because he wanted to utilize these teeth and like really make them a huge part of the character. And it was the same with this scene when we got to see him as kind of burn makeup. He was
Hmm.
like doing things to make like pieces of skin flop around and things like that, and just really show how gross and like gnarly it was. But yeah, he you can tell he was just enjoying and eating up every second of this. And if you watch the behind the scenes, there's been some behind the scenes videos out there of him like practicing his fight scenes as Dracula. You could tell it, he's just smiling and loving every minute of it. And that's really fun, that somebody that has been in the industry for so long can
Hmm.
still find that kind of love for a
Well,
character.
this is arguably his favorite fictional character. He, very, very young, his father introduced him to Nosferatu. He's obsessive about the various incarnations of Dracula. He says that Christopher Lee's version is his favorite.
Is that your favorite?
So I haven't seen all of Christopher Lee's
Where do you
movies
rank
yet.
Nicolas Cage
So Nick is
against?
wonderful. So here's where things get kind of interesting. So this was written as a sequel to Bela Lugosi's 1931 Dracula. The director shot it as a sequel to Christopher Lee's Dracula. So this is kind of like a hybrid of the sequel to the two greats. And this is no offense to Gary Oldman's, his Dracula, whatever, Dracula. The one with, oh man,
Tom
what?
Cruise.
No, that's Interview with the Vampire.
It's all the same.
Gary Oldman's Dracula is unhinged, man. You just look up some images from that movie. You don't have to watch it. It's unhinged. Okay. And I love Gary Oldman. He's one of the best actors of my lifetime. But the two iconic versions of Dracula are Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee. And this is a marrying of those two. And so Nick brought that into it. He wanted to take on that next step. He wanted to find some way to make it his own, but still honor those two previous versions of the character. And man, he just chews up the screen. He is so good in
Fun to
this role.
watch.
He's so fun, so interesting, and it makes me like, yes, this is a horror comedy, a dark comedy. Would I fucking love to see him in a legit horror movie playing Dracula? I mean, I think that, you know, he's always wanted to do the role. He was actually originally up for Gary Oldman's spot in that Dracula movie, but his uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, didn't really want to work with him at the time because of Peggy Sue Got Married. That, you know, go listen to our episode on Peggy Sue Got Married. Things didn't go super well. Um, I think he would have been incredible in this role, and I would
Unfortunately, I think you'll
argue,
never get that.
well,
Now that this movie has come out, I don't think you'll ever do Dracula.
I agree, but I think that it is fair to say after watching this that if he had gotten it, I think he would have been the best.
But you don't think this performance as Dracula makes him the best?
It's a little extra campy and a little extra silly at times. And it's also weird seeing Dracula in modern times in the United States,
Yeah.
right? Like
In New
that's,
Orleans,
yeah, like
of
that's
all
just,
places.
it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just not really what the character was intended to be.
You would think it would be
Um,
in Pennsylvania because that's the closest thing, you know?
that's funny. But I do think that he clearly has it in him to knock this role out of the park.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we'll never probably get to see that. This will
I
get the
know,
closest to
man.
be. So we get after meeting Awkwafina, she's doing basically the investigation from that drug. Well, she's at this point like busted down to a traffic cop, and so they're doing like the UI checkpoints, and Ben Schwartz's character comes through, and he's got like blood on the side of his car because he was outside when Renfield punched the head off the guy, and the head hit his car, and his car is full of drugs. So when he gets to the stop, he like runs, and they pop the tires. She shoots out the tires and arrests him, and then he gets let off, even though there's like a bunch of drugs in the car, uh, kind of showing that this police office or this particular group of police might be corrupt, based on the fact that this guy works for a crime family.
Mhm.
And we get kind of the backstory that her sister is an FBI agent, and their dad was killed by the crime family that she just arrested the kid from. And it's a very stereotypical kind of cop revenge story. Um, so we get to see from Teddy's point of view, he goes to like wherever they're based out of, and apparently his mom is waiting for him. And
The
in
most
this,
gaudy house in New Orleans.
yeah,
The
um,
gold columns and like
it's probably Nick Cage's actual house. Um, but yeah, he goes to this place, and the like bouncer at the door is like, it tells him your mom's waiting for you downstairs, or your mom's waiting for you. And so he starts to go upstairs, and he says, no, she's downstairs. And so he goes downstairs, and we get to see that like this mom is clearly the mob boss.
Mhm.
She has like this full torture basement with, all kinds of different torture appliances. We get another ska joke in
Yep.
here.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, I can't remember how it comes about, but she runs into Awkwafina not long after this and mocks the dead dad. Does the typical like gangster, oh, your dad didn't even like, he was crying like a little bitch or whatever when he died. He wasn't even brave or anything. Um, yeah, I
Mhm.
don't remember what fight scene. Oh, this was when that was at the diner, or was it a
The
diner? The
restaurant.
club, the restaurant. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Awkwafina is at the restaurant, or no, Renfield was at the restaurant, right? Or no, he was looking for victims. He goes into the restaurant and he sees like there's a thing of cheerleaders
Yeah,
and
there's this running.
nuns.
Yeah, because Dracula asks for very specific things. He's like a group of nuns, a bus full of cheerleaders, right? And like those things keep kind of showing up. Is the joke? Now, I would love to see Renfield try to get a bus of cheerleaders to Dracula because I think that would be very funny. But we didn't get
Yeah,
to see that. But yeah, so Renfield is there trying to decide what innocent people he's going to kill.
yeah,
And then that's when Rebecca shows up because she's, she's trying to get dirt on Teddy Lobo,
right.
right?
And they see each other in there. And around that time, the like whole crime family shows up.
Well, yeah, so Teddy shows up with a bunch of thugs and they're gonna kill, people or Rebecca or whatever. And that's when Renfield decides to go into hero mode.
Right, and I think it's not Teddy's mom in this case that
No,
mocks
it's
Awkwafina.
Teddy.
It was
Yeah.
Teddy. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they like all have guns and blah blah blah. And so yeah, Renfield decides to eat a bug and start going crazy. Uh, and this is the part kind of that we were talking about, where at some point he throws a dinner plate and it chops the guy's arms off, and it's just
Yeah.
very it's very like Looney Tunes, kind of extra violent Looney Tunes
A
fight
little bit.
scenes.
Yeah.
Um, After the fight, this is where I started to kind of feel like I didn't really get the tone. Was when Awkwafina is like, "Did I see you chop some guy's arms off with a dinner plate?" And he's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "That was cool." And I'm like, "Okay, what cop would ever respond that way?"
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, she's not painted as a great cop, right? She's not really respected by her peers. And yes, those are dirty cops, but she's also not really respected all that much by her sister, who's in the FBI either. So she's kind of depicted as this like outsider who maybe isn't so great at her job or maybe doesn't have the best head on her shoulders. And I mean, throughout this, like she does kind of bounce back and forth quite a bit through the movie. She trusts Renfield, she doesn't trust Renfield. She's gonna take down the Lobos. Well, maybe she won't take down. Like it's just kind of going back and forth a lot. And so I think she's just not. She's not the typical action movie cop.
Right, but
You
yeah, this
know.
also gets into the kind of the straight man versus like comedian angle, because when she says she thinks that's cool, then she's obviously not the straight man, because a straight man would have been
Right.
like, "What the actual fuck is happening?"
That's
But
the
she,
thing.
so yeah, this is when it started getting a little weird for me, when I couldn't figure out what her character was supposed to be.
I do think that the lack of consistency with that character, for me anyway, is probably the weakest part of the movie.
Yeah, I'd agree. But she calls him a hero, and then she has all the people there cheer for him because he saved all their lives, and they cheer for him, and he kind of has like a moment of actualization where he's like, I am in an abusive relationship and I can be more than what I am.
Hmm.
And so he goes back to the self-care, or the not the self-care group, the group, for people that have to deal with narcissists and codependent relationships. And he admits that he's in this. He finally speaks up, which they've been trying to get him to do. And they go through his issues, and the guy that runs the group has him like recite some things to you know uh help him figure out how he can better himself and get through this relationship.
Hmm.
And so then we get like a montage of Renfield's self-care.
Yeah, he gets his own place.
He gets his own place. He like buys new clothes. He like brushes his hair.
He gets a lot of those like inspirational posters,
Yes,
puts
and
them all
puts
on a
them
wall.
everywhere. Yeah, he gets some books, lots of sweaters. Um,
Because as this is going on, he's getting advice from other people in the group of ways he could make himself better, right? And so he's going through his little journey. Like every movie's got to have a montage, right? So this is the montage.
right. And so he eventually goes to the police station because he says he wants to give a witness statement. And so there's a, whole thing there with Awkwafina being made fun of by the other cops, that this is her boyfriend. That was a weird scene.
The dynamic with the cops is weird the whole time because like as the movie progresses, we learn that the cops are dirtier and dirtier,
Yeah,
right?
all of them, every
Until at
single
the end,
cop.
except for her,
Yeah,
right. We learn, and so we kind of have to dislike them from the beginning, but we don't really know why yet. Like yeah, there's the guy Kyle who everyone just kind of shits on. You're like, ah, that's funny. Kyle sucks, right? But we don't really know why we're supposed to hate everybody yet. But the movie keeps kind of telling us to hate them,
right.
right?
Yeah, they're
So
just
it
kind of
is weird.
jerks.
Yeah, they're just kind of jerks. And you're like, why are they being? Aren't they all on the same team? And then you're like, oh no.
Yeah. Um, and so Teddy has his mom has pictures of this Renfield, and they try and figure out where he's at. And through some computer hacking or something like that, they figure out that he keeps going back to this one location, which is where Dracula lives,
Right. It's like an
and
abandoned hospital.
an abandoned hospital. Yeah, and so Teddy plans an assault on that location. Uh, and they go in there, and basically everybody gets slaughtered except Teddy. And
Sure.
so he starts talking to Dracula and trying to. Dracula hears him talk about the crime family and is interested in that. And so then it kind of cuts out um, to Dracula showing up at Renfield's apartment.
Now there is one thing this movie does that I did think was kind of clever. And there's this thing with vampires, right, where they have to be
Yes, I
invited
agree.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that Renfield has is a mat at his front desk, that welcomes him in. So Renfield doesn't have to say anything. Dracula can just come in because of the floor mat. And I just thought that was very clever because in the original Dracula, that wouldn't have been a concept,
Yeah.
right? And so this is a cool extension of modern times into the lore. And they do it a couple of times, and I really liked it.
It is interesting that because I don't know if you've seen it or not. Sinners also kind of lives with that rule of vampires having to be invited in, which I thought was cool. A lot of modern movies are kind of that's a rule that's easy to break. For
Yeah.
a movie, like you could just ignore that, but it does make for a more interesting movie if you acknowledge that rule, I think. And in this case, it's played for humor, but it works because it's a comedy.
Well, and
Um,
as I said earlier, like I really like the classic Universal monsters and things like that. And for me, it's the rules that make them interesting. The fact that there are limitations and they're very specific limitations, and how can you play with those in a fun, smart way. And so I don't really like when an adaptation just throws that stuff out the window because it's not convenient. And
but
so
it would
I
also, in a comedy, be understandable that they would just not, you know.
But that's the thing, though. That's why I like this. They
Yeah.
did come up with a solution that was funny for those who know and
Yeah.
irrelevant for those who don't, right? And
Right.
so it works perfectly fine that way. That's the kind of thing I can appreciate. That's an adjustment to modern times, not just we're gonna forget that was a rule,
Right.
right?
Right. And it may have been like something if somebody mentioned that this would be funny if we did that, and they just decided to roll with it. But I mean, yes, I agree. Me and my girlfriend both laughed when we saw that. It was funny. I also think that this apartment scene with Dracula and Renfield is one of the best scenes in the movie.
So good.
It's it's fun. It's a comedy scene or movie, right? So it's funny, but Nicolas Cage really does a good job like playing kind of a sarcastic Dracula, which you don't get to see very often. But it's like he believes and agrees with the things Renfield's saying about needing to take care of himself, but he's mocking him when he's doing
Hmm.
it. It's like that kind of sarcastic agreeing, and you kind of see him devolve into this narcissistic and manipulative argument that a lot of us probably can relate to. We've been around narcissists and people that are manipulative and that use these kind of techniques. And Dracula doesn't try and like hide that's what he's doing. He's very much just using the classic manipulation techniques to try and get Renfield back, basically. And this is kind of the make or break it moment.
Hmm.
Um, and so, unfortunately for Dracula, Renfield is not into it.
But this is one of the unique scenes where we get to see Dracula in a modern setting,
Yeah.
right? Because he's in this abandoned hospital. And so it's all dark and disgusting. Honestly, it looks like you're exploring a place in Fallout, frankly. And, so we don't really get to see him interact with the modern world. In this scene, we do. This is a modern apartment with normal stuff in it, right?
He's
And he,
drinking a blood out of a martini glass with eyeballs in it,
yeah, like
which is great.
it's great. Like it's really fun and stylized. And he's not quite a fish out of water, but you can tell he's not fully comfortable with all the new stuff.
Yeah.
And that also kind of both characters grow in this movie. Now, obviously, Dracula's the bad guy, so he's not growing in a good way. But he's also more like, well, I shouldn't hide in the shadows all the time either. I am a god. I should be out in the world. And we get to see him slowly learning about the modern world, and that's fun. I really enjoyed that.
Agreed. Um, so Dracula decides that he's gonna hurt Renfield, as narcissists do in
Hmm.
various ways. They'll try and go after whatever they know will hurt you the most. And in this case, it was Renfield's support group. So Renfield runs in there and they're having a meeting conveniently at this moment. And he tells everybody they need to get out of there. They need to get out of there. Well, Dracula shows up and basically massacres all of them, kills everybody, makes Renfield watch. But he's so charming in like like his clothing is so great. He has like this cane and this
And that jacket
hat.
and
Yeah,
everything.
it should. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, like that red jacket. Yeah,
Ah, so good.
it was really good. But yeah, he plays like a very charming, manipulative character, and so yeah, he just goes through and massacres everybody. And then leaves. Well, all when he leaves, all the cops show up having heard something was happening. And so Renfield and Awkwafina run out, and uh, there's just a bunch of cops there waiting for him with guns drawn on them. And then the crime
Well,
family shows up also, or not the crime, yeah, the mom.
so sort of though. So this is a trope I do not like in movies. And this is where there has to be a misunderstanding between our two heroes. So that way they're at odds at some point in like the second act, right? And I don't like that because it's usually something that could be explained if someone could just like say one sentence,
Yeah,
right? And so she comes in and she sees this massacre, and he at no point does he say, it wasn't me, somebody else did this. That never comes out of his mouth. She just assumes that he did it, and he's just like standing in it.
even though she knows that his boss is Dracula and that they've been having like some issues.
Well, she doesn't know that yet.
Oh, she doesn't know that at this. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. That's
she
after
doesn't know
this.
that yet. But like either way, he went from being a hero to murdering all these innocent people, and she has really no questions
Right.
about it, and he's not going to defend himself either, right? And I just that's a trope that bothers me in film and TV in general.
Yeah.
But then yeah, so she arrests him, and as they're arresting him, that's when all of the cops and the Teddy Lobo family all show up because the Lobos want Renfield.
Yeah.
And this is where now she's going to take it upon herself. She thinks this guy is a mass murderer, and she is going to now put herself on the line against the entire corrupt police force and the Lobo family for this mass murderer.
Just because she doesn't want to be corrupt herself. Like that seems like seemingly that's the only reason why she doesn't, because they basically the mom shows up and the police captain is there and they're like, we think you'd be great if you got a raise and got 50% more money and more money, and you got a promotion, and you're just going to be like, you're gonna have your own parking spot and whatever, all practice, telling her all these things that she's going to get if she just gives them Renfield.
And the thing is like at this point, if you're her, yeah, the cops are all corrupt, the Lobo family's terrible, but this dude is a mass murderer.
Yeah, just give them up.
What are you sticking your neck out for? That's never really answered.
Right.
So again, like I think her character is the weaker part of the movie here because she's inconsistent,
Yeah.
right? So she blows up a transformer and gets away, even though they're getting shot at by 50 people.
And she gets shot. in the process, and the shoulder.
Yeah, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. Um, my next note is Dracula laughing is terrifying. I don't know what
Yeah,
that's in reference to. Maybe that's when he goes to meet with the crime family. I can't
must
remember.
maybe. It is
But
great though.
oh yeah, he really like relished that. Um, so yeah, uh, is this when she's in his apartment?
Yeah, so he's gotten himself out of the handcuffs. He's made cookies,
Yeah.
which she's
And she's been
insulted,
unconscious this whole time, apparently.
right? And now he
Um,
explains who he is.
yeah, and when she wakes up, she kind of she's got her shoulder bandaged, and she kind of like grabs her shoulder like it hurts. And then that's the only pain she feels from that shoulder for the rest of the movie. Everything she can move perfectly normally. It's as if it never happened.
It's as if she got some of Dracula's blood.
Yes, and I guess we didn't mention that it's established earlier in this movie. Well, at least for me, I thought that it could heal Renfield, but apparently it can heal anybody from anything. Throughout this movie, we learn Dracula's blood can do incredible things.
It can, yeah.
Um, yeah. So my next note was I think Awkwafina forgot that her character got shot in the shoulder.
See, but that's not on the actor though. That's directing. That's that's consistency. That's whoever's keeping the Bible for the movie, right? Like those are things that need to be done as a team. That's not really on the actor by themselves. Because who knows what order this stuff was shot in, right? Like that's part of the
True.
big problem. Like the movies are very rarely shot in order. And so for all we know, all the action sequences after this were shot first.
It's
You know,
possible.
so like this is something that like this is a team effort to get that type of consistency in a movie, and yeah, that was just not followed through.
Yeah. And so now we get this is one of the parts one of the only things I remember from the trailer was that there's like an apartment complex fight scene.
Mm.
Who what was it, the cops or was it the Lobos that are
Both.
okay.
That's the thing. Like at this point, they're one and the same. Clearly, the Lobo family owns the police force. Now, is
Right.
it just New Orleans? Is it just one precinct? We don't really ever get that answer. But they own all of the police other than Rebecca that we see in this movie.
Yes, and they're bringing automatic weapons into an apartment complex that's presumably full of innocent people.
Not
And it,
presumably, we see a mother and young kid in one of these apartments in
yeah,
this very scene.
yes, and they are just blasting away with assault rifles throughout this complex.
They're
Um,
they're all in like SWAT
yeah,
bomb gear and they've got like
just
armored
recklessly
tank vehicles
firing.
and yeah, man. It
Yeah, nobody in this apartment complex survived, I'm convinced, other than Renfield and Awkwafina. Um, But yeah, this is the scene where the arm thing happens, and
yeah.
there's just a bunch of really campy violence, um, which is fine. I didn't love that Aquafina was kind of fine with it and just like able to partake in it. We've already beat that to death though, so we don't need to get into that
Well,
too
there is
much.
an extra piece to it though, and that's she immediately switches and just kills every cop she finds.
Yeah, she's fine
Right?
with cop murder now.
Right. And like the thing is like I have a hard time believing that that is realistic. Right. Like she's worked at this station for who knows how long. Her dad worked there before, her sister's in the FBI. This is a law enforcement family. And she just is all of a sudden okay with literally murdering everyone.
Yeah, cops and
You know?
crime family
And yeah,
people.
the Lobo guys, okay, fine, whatever. But every single all she is shooting to kill.
And also doesn't care about all the civilians that are presumably dead in all the apartments around her.
So again, like her
Um,
character just is a little all over the place.
and my next note is Dracula meets crime mom. So that was a fun
There you go.
scene because
That was
she's
cool.
a great actress too.
Oh yeah, she's great.
But they close all the windows in the room and they carry in like six giant like mob guys carrying a Dracula's coffin. It's really fun.
Now I do have a little bit of a question for Dracula on that one. So he's in his coffin, right, with this group of people. He just met Teddy.
Yeah,
How does he like trust that they will bring him where they say and he'll be safe?
he's a god. What does he care? Like,
Well, I don't know. If you bring him to the middle of the park and then open the thing at noon, then he's dead. if you lock it up and throw it in the
He
ocean,
he got good vibes.
like I don't know. I just that felt a little too quick. Like he went from being in the shadows for a century, not trusting anybody but Renfield, to I'm going to trust this brand new thug I met to transport me across town during the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just like, that doesn't feel
Well,
strategic.
you know, presume doesn't Dracula have some hypnotizing powers and things like that too?
So, yes, but he doesn't use it in this movie. The only thing he uses in this
Maybe he did
movie,
off screen.
then you need to show me that. Show the eye thing. Just show me one time that he can do it, and then fine, you can do it off screen after that.
Whatever. You nitpicking now.
Am I?
Just kidding.
I don't know.
Um, so Awkwafina is gearing up to go, and Renfield are gearing up to go take on the crime family because now they know Dracula is part of this crime family. So they're gonna go after him. So she, keep in mind, wanted by the police at this point. She still somehow walks into the police station, grabs a bunch of like gear and guns
She's also driving a giant police SUV.
with no problems.
No
None of the
problems.
cops there are like, maybe we should stop her.
It's very
She just
hot
killed a
fuzz.
bunch of cops.
It's
Yes,
very hot fuzz.
yeah, it was super weird. Um, but yeah, yeah, I put wasn't she wanted by the cops? Just rolls into police station and takes guns, ammo, and confiscated car because she takes John Ralphio's car from the beginning of the movie.
I mean, I guess, or maybe they're all dead. We don't see cops
We She
again,
killed
right?
literally every cop in the entire
Well, Renfield
city.
helped. The two, not in the entire. That's the thing, right? We don't really know the scope here. Maybe it's just the one precinct.
Maybe, but I would think if an entire precinct was dead, then other cops would probably be at that precinct going, "What in the world is happening here?"
Typically, yes. Typically, that's what would happen.
So they get to the crime family place and discover that apparently Dracula has been busy turning them into familiars, which I don't know in the lore of Dracula what it takes to make someone a familiar, because in this circumstance he's giving them a portion of his power. That's what they say at the beginning.
I think what that means is it's not that like now he's at 95% power or something. I think he's giving them a taste of
But
what
how?
kind of through the blood and the bite that he does.
So he bites them and they don't turn into a vampire. They just turn into a
Yeah, so it depends on
super
which lore
powerful
you're
human.
it depends on which lore you're following. The the vampires biting humans that turn them into vampires thing is not so much a Dracula thing. It's more
Okay.
of what came later from Dracula as a concept expanding into vampires in general.
I think my issue is just that we never
But
really are told what it takes to become a
yeah,
familiar. It seems like he's had this one familiar for a long time, so it seems like it would be a pain in the ass process. But then he does it to like 30 people
right.
in a
It
short, very short time period.
it does raise some questions about that, right? Why just have the one guy all this time when clearly help would have been convenient? But I do think that like in the original lore, if memory serves right, it's still like an effort, and so it still isn't something he wants to do all the time,
Yeah.
you know, but in this
But he
case,
has no problem doing it right here for people he barely
yeah,
knows.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So at this point, I started to get bothered. I love Nicholas Hoult. I want to say straight out, he's a great actor. Was wonderful as Lex Luthor in this year's Superman movie. He's been great in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in. One thing that I don't think he's good at is action.
Oh, like the choreographed fighting. Is that
Yeah, I had a hard time getting past that. Yeah. His person moves in a very different way than he does, and anytime you saw his face doing the action, it took me out of it a little bit. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but um since this movie was pretty reliant on this like over the top choreography, it
yeah, I
stood
mean,
out to me.
it didn't really bother me much at this point, just because of, this is now, he's fighting six or whatever of these other super powered dudes, right? And you've got Ben Schwartz, who again, like I love Ben. He is so funny. He's great. Seems like such a cool dude, but it is hard for me to take him seriously at this point in his career in this villain role where he's going to fight and stuff. And I was more distracted by, well, Renfield's had these powers for like a century, right?
Right.
And so he's learned how to fight and how to defend,
You're
himself and
talking about like
Dracula. And
the Man of Steel defense, like when Superman and Man of Steel had all these years to learn how to work with these powers, and then the Kryptonians come down and they instantly know how to use.
it's
It's that kind
exactly
of a
that.
problem. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
exactly that. Yeah. Ben Schwartz is a guy who, because his character is established to being kind of a shitty criminal
A
guy,
failure. Yeah,
right? There's the whole scene in the restaurant, where Rebecca's, chiding him on of like, hey, like, have you ever actually shot somebody? Like he is kind of a bit of a goof. He's a bit of a failure in a way. And now all of a sudden he is like this killer who knows how to throw down and knows how to fight. And that for me is more that doesn't really work for me because to me it's inconsistent with the character that we've been watching for almost an hour and a half. Like whereas at least the Renfield character theoretically has had time to learn how to do this stuff.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. I also didn't love that all it was just like one kick to beat John Ralphio. Like it was all this lead up, and then just one kick ended it. And he got exposed to sunlight and was done. Um,
Ray really liked the moment where like the big reveal happens and we learn that Teddy is a familiar and he snorts the giant centipede.
yeah,
Ray enjoyed that particularly. She thought that was very funny. I thought it was gross.
yeah. But you also had to watch him eat a spider earlier in the movie, so
Yeah, I didn't like that very much
I knew as
either.
soon as I saw that, I was like,
But
Derek. That was in like the first 2 minutes. I was like, Derek's already not liking this.
why did it have to be a spider? There's lots of bugs. All right, lots of
Yeah,
bugs.
because
Eh.
that's a gross thing to eat. Like if you eat a cockroach, it's like okay, we've seen that a million times, but eating a spider is much more creepy. So then we get Renfield fighting Drac. He rips out his teeth, and so then he has tooth hands
Well, so
after
before we
that.
get to that though, there's a bit before that I don't want to jump over, which is when Rebecca shows up to confront Dracula, and we find out that her sister's all beat up and she might be dying or whatever, and Dracula is trying to convince her to join him. I would have bet money that she was going to stab him with the stake because during like the suit up scene, they made a whole thing about the stake and she's got it in her belt,
Oh, I thought
right?
that was what was going to happen too,
Right.
but
And instead she's messing with the remote to get the shades to go up, which is fine, but I was just waiting for her to grab it and stab him with it. And it never happened. And I gotta say, I was a little bummed.
yeah, but they didn't want her to be the one that kills Dracula. It needed to be Renfield.
I mean, that's true, but she could have missed his heart, like
I guess.
same effect, right? He doesn't die with what she does anyway. So just have her miss because she's a cop and not, a vampire hunter, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah, that does happen. And he's like, I can bring your sister back. I can heal her. So that's a whole thing that
That's the whole
happens.
thing. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
he heals the sister with Dracula blood. And then there's a big fight. Or no, they heal the sister with
they
Dracula
do that
blood
later
after
after
they
the
kill.
fact.
Yeah, they put him in the protection circle and beat the shit out of him with
which,
all the
which is
torture weapons we saw.
which is a little funny that a protection circle is just any white powder as long as you say the right words, which I thought was funny because it's cocaine
Yeah,
in this movie when historically, it's usually like salt,
salt. Yeah,
right? So I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know enough about that type of craft to say if that fits the lore or not, but I did think it was funny.
it was. Yeah, and once he's in the protection circle, he's basically frozen there. He can't do anything. So they just use all the torture devices to beat the shit out of him. Um, So yeah, then we start to finish off the movie here. They heal the sister with Dracula blood, and then they bring back to life the entire support group.
Everybody, which is like 20 something people.
I did not like this because that introduces whole other problems. These people have been dead for some length of time at this point.
I mean, this all takes place in that same day, I think.
Still, they've been dead for a day. You're telling me that their brain doesn't have any kind of damage, like it's just magic healing juice. And then they have like at the end they show a whole like three-quarters of a pitcher left of Dracula blood just sitting at the table.
Hmm.
Are they gonna like cure cancer with that, or is it just gonna be a throwaway gag at the end of the movie? You know, it's
I
like,
think that's what it is, right?
yeah,
Like the problem with magical stuff, right, is you know where is the line? And so the idea is Dracula's blood can heal people and bring people back from the dead. That's what Now, supposedly there's some amount of time because they start to decompose and then you can't do it. So maybe there's some limit. I don't know, but I didn't like it more less for that reason and
well,
more.
because of a character reason. That's
Yeah,
part of that's why I didn't like. I mean, the magic stuff is whatever, but yeah, because it gets rid of any character development that Renfield had gone through
well, because
in regards to losing people close to him. You
it's
know,
like the Hollywoodification of the character because he's still a bad guy.
yeah,
Renfield is not not really a hero here.
sure. If anything, anti-hero.
But even barely. Like our anti-heroes are, the Thunderbolts,
Yeah,
right? Who, thought they were working for government, organizations and militaries and thought they were doing the right thing, and things like that. Renfield always was doing the wrong thing and abandoned his family to join Dracula to become the familiar. Like when he was still human, he abandoned his family, right?
yeah,
So like he's a bad guy and he's been killing innocent people knowingly for decades, right? And yeah, his conscience has finally gotten the better of him. But what this does is it essentially absolves him of everything. And at the end of the movie, he's like a Boy Scout.
yeah. Doesn't
So
really make any sense.
I do wish that that wasn't the case. There needs to be some consequences for the things that he's done.
Yeah.
And I
So
apologize. I think I'm losing my voice.
So yeah, usually at the end of these podcasts, before we rate it ourselves, we go to IMDb in the ratings section and kind of give it a once over and talk about some of the reviews and see what other people may or may not have thought of this movie. Do you think I should start with the 10 out of 10s or the 1 out of 10s on this one?
Let's start with the ones.
Start with the ones. Okay. From John 9A. This one has 58 thumbs up as helpful on IMDb and 56 thumbs down, so almost even split.
Interesting.
This film thinks it's much more than it is. Nothing original, routine gore comedy. The gore value is supposed to give the viewer a trendy feeling, but there's nothing new here. Therapocene was stolen from Austin Powers, but with more gore, of course, silly fighting scenes, the usual underdog anti-hero guy who finds a girl he likes, silly mafia villains. Hollywood thinks very lowly of its audience. I like Nicolas Cage better than a cliched, silly Dracula with too much gore makeup and bad teeth. He adds very little here. Nicholas Hoult is the sympathetic, guilty victim. His part is thin with very silly superhero boosts. There's implied depth to his character, but nothing of any substance in the script. At best, a one-time view for curiosity.
Rough. That's
I think
rough.
some of those points are good. I think not all of them though. George Babov 34500 says this story is absolute trash and the movie is very cheesy with the occasional cringe movie jokes. The movie is focused a lot on the story of a police officer with some crazy douchey pseudo mob family and mainly on the personal growth side of Renfield. I expected something more. Both the comedy and the scary part were missing. There were some gory scenes which could classify as scary for some, but not the typical scary movie enjoyer. I would say that the genre of the movie is trash comedy slash horror parody. I guess comedy and horror don't mix well. A lot of people left the cinema a bit before the end. Nicolas Cage is a good actor, but he missed with that movie.
I'll never really understand the people who leave a movie theater like when there's like 15 minutes left. Like you've been in there for an hour, just finish the movie.
Yeah. Just going through these 1 out of 10s, they all are giving very similar
Yeah.
problems. A lot of them are similar problems to what I had with it, but they took it a lot harder than I did, I think. But let's see. For 10 out of 10s, N. Barnes says this movie is exactly what it was supposed to be, over the top. Come on, guys, it's Nicolas Cage's Dracula. This movie is wild, hilarious, action-packed, gory, a little bit of emotion in Nicholas Holt's character. It was done correctly and should be looked at for what it is. It's a goofy film, so you have to go into it expecting nothing less than cheesy. As for the story, I thought it was a fun story with Nicholas Hoult's character essentially being the harbinger for Dracula and realizing that he's being manipulated into doing Dracula's bidding by attending a group therapy session. It's insane and fun and shouldn't be taken seriously at all. Let's see. Nicolas Cage's portrayal of Dracula in Renfield is deliriously over the top. His performance as the Prince of Darkness is full of startling outbursts and unexpected inflection with sprinklings of charm. It's a natural evolution 35 years after Vampire's Kiss, as he's now wallowing in this mythological monster's unquenchable thirst.
Wow.
Cage's performance in Renfield is consistently entertaining, even when the film is as a whole is less so. So there's some good stuff. I think good points on both sides. But yeah, now we have to rate it ourselves.
Yeah, so we have our Cage-O-meter. We have an interactive Cage-O-meter that you can see. Go to comingofcage.com for the link to that. And we basically rate on two different scales, the overall quality of the movie and the overall caginess of the movie. It's a 20-point scale because our buddy Nick here has been in a lot of projects. So we want to kind of have some room to play with there. So 1 is low, 20 is high for this. And we usually start with quality. And Ryan, do you want to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'd like you to go first.
Okay. So I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I think that, it's meant to be a B horror flick. It's meant to be campy and silly at times. I think Nick just nails the role of Dracula through and through. Every scene he is in, I think he is just brilliant in it. I want so much more of him as Dracula. So it's hard for me to really nail this down. I think I'm going to go with a 14. I think it's above average. It's not, a brilliant, it's not like, an incredible film. I
I
think it's
thought
a
you were
lot
going
of,
to go higher than that, honestly.
it's a lot of fun. I'm looking at the other movies that I've rated around that realm. The stuff I've rated a 13, I think I would prefer this. I think this is better than those. There's a couple of things at 14 that I think are better than this as well. But once you get to the 15s and 16s, I don't think it can really fight with those. It's a different class. And so for me, I think 14 is fair.
That's fair. For me, I didn't like it as much as you did. I think that Nicolas Cage's performance was great, Nicholas Hoult was great, but I think there was some seriously glaring weaknesses in the movie. Um, and I think it's on the upper end of average, but I don't think it's necessarily that far out of the realm of average. So I was at a 12 with it.
Okay.
So we're not too far apart, but I think we definitely had our individual opinions on it.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to give it a 13 because then it would be a 13 and a half, which is what I think it really is.
Yeah. Sorry.
But hey, it's totally fine. It's funny. I've kind of noticed, like looking back over our scores, that below a 10, I tend to be overly critical. So my scores are lower than yours. Above a 10, I tend to be happier. And so my scores are higher than yours. It's kind
So
of
you're saying
interesting.
that I'm more consistent when it comes to rating movies than you are.
I don't know about consistent. I think I am more my extremes are higher. You
Or
have more of a
further.
bell curve, and I'm
Makes
more,
sense.
you know,
That is
I'm
funny.
a love it or hate it kind of guy, I think, is what it is. So then we have caginess. And man, I mean, this is
And
up
this is
there.
up there. Yeah, I mean, this is maybe not quite Vampire's Kiss, but it's pretty close.
It is really up there. So for Vampire's Kiss, we gave that a
That was
20,
a
right?
20. Yeah, that had to
Okay.
be a 20.
Yeah, we each gave that a 20. Other really high ones, of course, we gave Unbearable Weight was our very first movie. We gave it a 16 on that. But we gave, I mean, just kind of looking at caginess here, some really high ones. 16 for Mandy, 16 for Prisoners of the Ghostland, 20 for Vampire's Kiss, like you said, 17 for Matchstick Men, 18 for Sympathy for the Devil, 19 for Deadfall. So I think, and 18 for Face Off. So I think this is really up there.
Yeah.
Um, I think, man, it is hard. I don't want to go over the top with it, but I think I have to go with an 18.
18 is exactly where I was at too. I think Deadfall is more cagey than this, just because his character is so outlandish in that.
Right?
This one, his character, it's weird saying that Dracula is less outlandish than a human character that he played in that movie, but um, Yeah, I think that he killed it in this, and it was very cagey, but I don't think it was as cagey as Vampire's Kiss or Deadfall. So I think 18 is a perfect place for it.
All right. Well, then there you go. So a 13 on quality and an 18 on caginess. And speaking of Deadfall, for those who don't know, his character from that is so over the top crazy. He got a spin-off and got his own movie called Arsenal, which we have not covered yet. So, I think that says something in and of itself for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So now, of course, we have to figure out what movie joins the Wheel O' Cage. So we spin a wheel. We have our Wheel O' Cage. We spin it, and it picks which Nicolas Cage movie we watch next on the show. And we have to add movies to that wheel as we watch movies. Renfield had actually been on the wheel the second longest on the wheel, behind Arsenal, actually. But now we have to pick a movie that will join the wheel and replace Renfield and become eligible. And that movie is The Wicker Man.
It's a good one.
So, yeah, The Wicker Man joins the wheel. We've got some great stuff on the wheel right now, though. We've got Kick Ass, we've got The Surfer, we have Wild at Heart, Long Legs, Ghost Rider, and also now Wicker Man, among others. There's more out there as well. Those are the heavy hitters. Lots of good movies left. The Rock isn't even on the wheel yet. We haven't touched The Rock yet. We've covered Con Air and Face Off, but not The Rock.
We're missing the Holy Ghost.
That's right.
We already got the father and son.
Jesus. Um, but of course, to find out, which movie we pick next, we have to check out the Wheel of Cage. You can go to comingofcage.com for all of our links. You can watch the Wheel of Cage spins and our Cage-O Bingo series. The video series is available on all of our links, including TikTok and Instagram. They go out to those as well, so please check that stuff out. And you can subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice or watch the full episode and our faces on the Derrico Studios YouTube channel. Again, all links comingofcage.com. Ryan, anything else for Renfield?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Fair enough. I'll just say if you watched it and you liked it, please check out Christopher Lee and Bela Lugosi Dracula. I think you'll really enjoy the connections there. But that is it for us. I'm Derek. That's Ryan.
See you next time.